just makes your day. So
maybe you want to be a public librarian.
it really is an awesome job.
The pros at where I am right now, the first thing that comes to mind is, again, is working with the students, and I mentioned that in my introduction. But that really is, it's very rewarding to see people that come in and maybe a little green, and then working with them and seeing the progress that they make as they go through the program, and then also just being able to keep energized with new ideas. Another really wonderful thing about working at EPA is working with the scientists. They're just the greatest patrons. They are so appreciative of everything that we do for them. What we're able to do for them, the work that they're doing, it's interesting. I mean, it's the research that's done there pertains to the health effects of environmental pollutants, mostly air pollutants. So, you're learning about all these terrible things in the environment and what's being done to mitigate that. And being involved in that research, it makes you feel pretty good to be a part of it, and it makes you feel really good when they do things like just take time out of their day to send thank you notes or come by and bring chocolate or something because we helped them with the project they were working on. So that's very fulfilling. The challenges with working at EPA as a contractor, or just being a contractor, is challenging because we're not, the federal staff actually dictate the programs and services, not completely, but we have to stay within certain bounds. So there are things that we would like to do that are outside the scope of our contract that we might not be able to do right now. Sometimes things can change, so that's kind of a struggle. We're also very limited in how we can advertise our services and our marketing. There are a lot of rules placed on contractors at a federal site, and we have to jump through hoops to tell people that we're out there. But still, we have a huge loyal following, so people know we're there. There's about, I think it's around 3,000 people on that site, and we have about 550 people on our mailing list, so that kind of gives you an idea of, we can only send things to people on our newsletter mailing list, so that's one of the challenges, but the pros far outweigh the cons.
Great. So there's time later to review resumes and stuff like that. We'll go ahead and move into the Q&A session. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and ask. If you don't have any questions, they have plenty of things to talk about.
I know you've all been to library school at different times, and for some of you it was recently and some not so recently. But are there things that you wish you'd taken while you were in library school, or what was your most useful class? Or are there different things that you're now finding that you have to do that you wish you knew more about and had some form of class on?
Am I the oldest person here?
No.
You go first.
Back in the day, the one thing that pops into my mind is that I didn't, a lot of people go into librarianship, they seem to have some kind of teaching background or that sort of thing, but I didn't have any kind of instructional background, any kind of teaching background, and I think it would have been really helpful to have a teaching methods class or an adult education methods class in library school, because so much of what I do is instruction and teaching, and so much of what, we really, librarians are teachers, and it just seems like a formal education class would have been really helpful for me.
I would have liked computers to have been invented. When I entered library school in 1995, and I exited it in 1998 going part-time, and I was exposed to Telnet, the World Wide Web. I remember there was the White House had a site, and whitehouse.org also existed at that time. So that was a huge thing that I learned in library school, was knowing exactly what the web address was before pulling it up to the public. But I was working in when we got public email at the Education Center, I was actually I was a solo librarian, and I got all of the email from the internet, and then I had to send it out through our internal, nobody had outside connections. So it was really the beginning. You know, relational databases happened while I was at the Education Center. So if I could have really had some solid, my cataloging course was mostly cards with a little bit of, and this is what a MARC record is. And all the acknowledgement was, you're really going to need MARC records, but we're going to teach you what the card says. So I was in that really awkward stage. So I know enough about HTML to be dangerous, but I had never really got a chance to work in it. So I really wish that I had had more solid technology learning. I picked it up on the job, but it would have been really nice if I could have, you know, had that solid, you know, technology class.
But it was actually a really exciting time. It was the same time frame going to school. It was actually a really exciting time to be in library school because the internet was just starting to explode, and it was really kind of neat to be in school at that time.
Well, and how much changed. 1995, I was telnetting, I was learning about Gopher, and I was seeing that White House with Socks the cat. I don't, you know, it actually had pictures on it. That's why the White House was the big example, because it was one of the first websites to actually have pictures, and you could click on pictures. And then in 1998, when I left, I discovered Amazon. So in that time period, you know, you really got from like the White House website to a reader's advisory, because even then Amazon was able to do, you know, if you like this book, then you might like this and this and this.
I remember that when I was in college,
huge
and I
change.
should have known, as I was experiencing all of those things, that I was eventually destined for librarianship.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Well, it's probably not a fair question for me because since exiting school, I've taken a class that's filled almost every semester, which is one of the great advantages of being in an academic library, is that you can almost always take classes at the institution for free, at least one class a semester, and most academic libraries had that perk that they'll give you. Probably, I don't know. David sent us this question beforehand, so I've been thinking about it for a while, and I don't know which class actually was the most useful for me. I know a lot that definitely have helped me. One of the ones that is probably not obvious is systems analysis, and I would highly recommend everybody that's an LS person take that, because that's where I really started to learn project management skills, which are really important as a librarian to have some sort of sense of how to analyze the way things are and how to go about fixing them. And I found that incredibly useful. I also took a ton of tech classes. I knew that I liked tech, and I knew that I needed to know more than I did coming into library school. So I took databases, web design, programming, like whatever I could take, I took that when I was in library school. I mean, depending on your interest, like, I would recommend a lot of tech courses. I think that there's not very many librarians out there that don't do a lot of stuff with computers. You don't have people that just work with books anymore in any library, so any of those skills that you can get are really important.
Like Susan, I wish I had taken more education or instruction classes. I didn't take any, even though I remember getting emails from the College of Education saying, hey, did you know that you can take up to 6 credits outside of the College of Information? And I thought, I don't care. I know what classes I want to take, and they're all in the College of Information. But now that instruction is such a huge